Hello and welcome. My name's Donna and this is my podcast called Blind in Knitting. It's all about my journey through sight loss and my passion for knitting. So there will be lots of FOs, whips, purchases, but also I'm a social worker and I'm really passionate about supporting people through mental health. So I'm going to give some tips and things on mental health as well. Yeah, so that's what I'm about. Welcome to my podcast. If you're a returning viewer, hi again. Look forward to having a chat. So I hope you've got a drink. I always think it's a bit naff that everybody says, oh, I'm drinking, and here I am doing it. It's just habit, isn't it? I want you to sit and feel like you're chatting with me. So have a drink, and I'm going to have my drink. I'm on, it's ridiculously healthy, but I'm on green tea today. And because I'm feeling a little bit low, to be honest, and flat. And it's like I have to do all of this stuff to try and help me boost myself up. I suppose you can even tell in my posture. So welcome to Blind in Knitting. I hope you're going to enjoy this next little time and have got your knitting ready, that you can sit and knit with me. I don't have any FOs today. I've got one that's really close. I do have a whip. I have a couple of, well, I have lots of whips let's be honest here. I've got about 6 whips, but I've got 2 or 3 that I'm really working on. So we'll talk about those today. I've got some tips on mental health as well. I just wanted to talk about the weather first. So I live in New Zealand, the lower North Island of New Zealand in the Wairarapa, and we've had the most ridiculous weather. And, you know, I know that the weather is the thing that we all sort of chat about and blah, 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 but it is, for those of you in the other areas in the world, over here it's spring. So the 1st of September is spring and we're into the 2nd week of October. So we should be really getting into a little bit of warm weather, which it is today. Today is beautiful. It's a very spring day. But last week we had snow down to sea level. I'll put some photos in up here for you to see. And then we have had the most rain this month on record. And so we've got hills in our landscape, in our view, and you can see the slips all through them because the water is we're just sodden. It's like New Zealand has become this great big sponge, and we're sodden with all this water. And then we've had a beautiful day. It's like, you just don't know whether you're Arthur or Martha. Normally I've put my woolens away by now, and now I'm still wearing, the other day I had a mohair polo fleece on and a hand knitted woolen 8-ply jersey, just because it was just dank and cold in the middle of spring. So yeah, it's been weird, and I keep looking out the window because we just don't know what's coming. But that's the way things are now. Things are really changing, and we have to be really adaptable to these changes and kind of get used to them and accept them in some ways, I suppose. We can't do anything about weather. My partner's a farmer, so weather is something that's really big in our world. His life and income and working days depend on the weather. So it is, and there's so many tragic suicides and things with rural men out there that are really struggling. And if you imagine I think we've had something like 40 days with no non-stop heavy rain, it's got to do your head in. Well, it does. We know it does, sadly. Anyway, I don't want to start off on a negative. I just wanted to say, wow. I don't know if you've had that over there. I've been watching some podcasts of people in America and the UK, and I know they've had heat waves, so I'm guessing it's a similar thing where, you've come across extremes in weather. That's certainly what we've come across. That's the weather. You didn't know you were tuning in for a weather report, did you? It's what I'm wearing. So I am wearing my Gemini, and my Gemini I knit a couple of years ago actually, and it is by, because I can't remember the, I wrote it down. Gemini, by Jane Richmond. It's a lovely pattern. I have struggled with it. I made it way too big, so I ended up putting shearing elastic in here to pull this up. It's got, if you can see, it's got this really cool square yoke on it. I quite like to knit it again, maybe in a wool. I've knit this in cotton. If you can see, it's nice. That's the length, and it's got quite a big oversized sleeve there, so I would quite like to make it again smaller sleeve, tighter neck, a little bit smaller, but I do love it. It's a great spring top because it's 100% cotton, and which I've never worn before and never knitted before. It was one of those experiments. I think in 2021 I decided that I would experiment with quite different wools or fibres that I have never knit before. I generally am an 8-ply sort of pure wool person, have been all my life, and I love homespun. The Aran weight sort of natural wools. They've just, I love them. I used to do a lot of Arans. I'm going to push myself to try and do an Aran again because I do love knitting them. I am worried about my sight. I know I struggle with lace. I've tried lace and really struggled. So if you're a new viewer here, I have retinitis pigmentosa. I'm just aware that I'm talking about my sight, and you may not know. I should sit back and relax, shouldn't I? You may not know much about me. So I have retinitis pigmentosa, which is an eye disease where the rods and cones, which work for light and colour in your eyes, die slowly, gradually from the outside in, and little spots as well. So it's a bit like someone's shooting a laser and killing all my cells. They're unreplaceable and unrepairable, so once they're gone, they've gone. The only blessing I have is that God gave me a sense of humour. So I may not be able to see things, but I can have a good laugh. Yeah, so I have very, very little sight. I have just a wee little sight there, so I can see my phone, I can see knitting that's right in front of me, but also it's very light, impacted by light. So like for example, if I walked outside at night time, I am totally blind. It's just completely black. And if it's poor lighting, or I've really strained my eyes, it's not great. So yeah, yesterday was a great example because it was such a lovely day after so many days of rain, and it was like all of a sudden I woke up in the morning and going, oh! So I rushed out into my garden because I just wanted to get it ready and get out in the sun. And so I spent the morning outside prepping my garden, and I will play a little video of that. I might put it in here of my veggie garden so that I can show you what work I did. But of course, and I did wear a very wide brimmed hat because the light is hard on my eyes. And you know, I think this was an eyesight program, but it's a bit of everything. I'll get to the knitting, bear with. Yeah, and so my sight's a little rough today, so I am struggling. I did do some knitting this morning when I woke up, and that reminds me of so I woke up this morning, my partner was still sound asleep, and I thought, right, I'll have a cup of tea and I'll do some knitting and watch a podcast in bed before he wakes up. And so I got my knitting and I got my cup of tea, and I was sitting in bed knitting, and he was cuddling up to me closer and closer and closer. And so I was knitting like this with one arm wedged up, and I thought, oh, I just didn't want to disturb him because I kind of wanted both. I wanted him to snuggle up to me, but I also wanted to do some knitting. So I was kind of knitting like that. I thought, oh, the games of a knitter, eh? But it was a little bit of fun. I had to have a giggle at that. Yeah, so I did do some knitting this morning, and I have an intention of doing some knitting this afternoon. After this podcast, I have kind of done everything I need to do around the house and got the gardens all ready, the chooks are fed, the lamb's been fed. Yeah, we've got a pet lamb at the moment. We've got a pet lamb called 122, and I think we've talked about him before. We have a Texel stud, so we breed Texel sheep. It's a breed of sheep. Not a very good wool sheep. Texel wool makes great carpet, but it doesn't make great knitting wool. So it's not great for knitting, but it is. Yeah, it's an eating sheep, and so that's what my partner does as well as farming. He manages our stud, and my sister-in-law and I have our own little hobby mob of sheep as well, which we call the she-sheep. We had 15, they've all bar one had twins, so we've now got 45 sheep, but we'll sell some ram lambs off, and yeah, so it's just a little bit of hobby fun that my sister-in-law have got with our own little mob, and we call them the she-sheep mob. Anyway, this is a knitting podcast, and I do yak and yak and yak. But let's get on to some knitting, and I can do some more yakking later, eh? Excuse me for drinking. It's very thirsty work. So last podcast, I showed you all my whips, which I will show you a couple of them again today because I have potted along with some of them. But I also showed you a purchase that I had, and I said, right, this is it. I'm just going to cast this on. So I've got 4 or 5 whips going at the moment, but they're all quite wintry whips. My pot plant keeps annoying me. They're all wintry knits. So I've got my Birkin, which is, if you want to look back on past podcasts, you'll be able to see my Birkin work. It is not a relaxed knit. It is a complicated knit for me with my sight, but I'm loving it, and I really want to finish it. But it will be a winter knit, and as I said, we're coming into summer, so I'm not rushing with that one, pottering along with that, so that can, be my Christmas holiday knit maybe. So that's kind of, I'm not going to show you that today because I haven't done any work on that. The other one that I am doing is my half and half wrap, which is a Pearl Soho, Birkin, sorry, is a Caitlin Hunter knit. It's a yoked, colour work yoke knit, and that I'm doing in 4-ply. So it's, it's a tricky one in 4-ply, but it'll be beautiful in the winter. And the other one that I'm not going to show you again is my half and half wrap, which is a free Pearl Soho pattern, and I think it's very popular. Most people will know about it. I've been knitting with mohair, so excuse me for rubbing my nose. I've got mohair nose. All you knitters will understand. And yes, I'm not going to show you my half and half wrap because again that's going to be a lovely big wintry knit, so I'm just going to leave that one for a little while sitting. Doesn't mean I won't do anything on it. I'll just pick it up every now and then and potter. I've marked last time I podcast it so that I can show you how much, but it's not much point showing you when there's not a lot to do. So what I will show you is, I did say that I had a purchase last time and that I was going to cast it on. So I did last weekend, and it rained and rained and rained and rained. So I got, what did I do? I knit and knit and knit and knit. So I got heaps done, and I'm really excited about this. Now it is, hang on, I'll find a pattern, bear with. It is a petite knit pattern called Terrazzo, and it's a slip over, Terrazzo slip over. See that there? And I figured that in sort of spring, summer, it's a logical thing to make because the weather can still be a bit nippy on it, but not cold. And I had brought at the Cairn retreat that I went to this absolutely stunning, It's like Christmas when you open these, isn't it? You get the rustle, rustle, rustle. I brought on special by this lovely lady called Christine, who was doing a stash buster, sorry, and she was selling these for I got 10 skeins for $80, so $8 each, and they're about 12 in town, I think 10 or 12. It's Chaska, and it's 100% alpaca, and I love this colour. It's really quite a strange colour, because sometimes it can look quite lemon, sometimes it can look quite cream, and sometimes it's got this sort of limey colour to it too. It's a really unusual colour. Oh, God, you know, when you're baking, when you're cooking and you're making biscuits or something, and you're creaming butter and sugar together, and you have this butter that is really, really soft, and you're ready to and you squish it. I don't know about you, but I'm a tactile cook, so I like to get in, and I don't use, and you've got this butter squelching through your fingers. This is what this feels like. Oh, it's just beautiful. And so I cast on the terrazzo, and I just did heaps and heaps and heaps. There we are. So there is the polo neck, and the shoulders, and it's got quite a big hole, but that will come up because it's got to have a rib around it, and then it's down, and then I'm now at the stage where I do some rib on the side, a little panel of rib, and then I split it for a split side, each side, and the front is shorter than the back is quite long in the back. So yeah, I've just done so much. Oh, it's one of those knits where you stop and you stroke it, you stop and you stroke it. I've tried it on and it fits really well. It's not negative ease, but it's close to that. But I did that deliberately because I've never knit with alpaca before. Especially 100% alpaca, so I'm a bit worried about how it will, you know, what it'll do after it's blocked and worn a bit. My gut feeling is it will give and just sort of loosen up a bit. So I have knit it on a slightly smaller size than I probably would normally have knit wool, which tends to bounce back, doesn't it? And I don't think this will bounce back. I also knit the rib, so it's 4mm, 8 ply, and I'm doing them on 4mm circular. It's all in the round, so it's top down. Love petite knits patterns, really easy. But I did do this rib here on 3.75, and again I did that deliberately for the same reason. I am worried that it will give and hang. Yeah, you can see I've just done heaps and heaps, and that's just all stocking stitch. I'm really excited about this now. I have made a mistake, you know, in true Donna form, and it's probably my site, that was the thing. So it is a turtleneck, so you fold it over like that, and of course what I've done is I've done knits instead of purls for that much of the row, and it's right in the front. Now I know that my picking up skills with my site is not good, so if I had unpicked that and picked up again, I probably would have had a whole round of untidiness instead of that one bit. So what I thought I'd do is put it on and see what the story was. And when I put it on, I actually didn't like it as a turtleneck. I liked it scrunched up as a, up high, but scrunched down a bit. Sort of like a very small cowly type look. So I've been rescued by what it looks like on. I don't like the turtleneck. And what I thought is if all else fails and it does really irk me, or I just don't like the neckline, I will unpick it to about there, and I will do a little crew neck and fold it under so that the unpicked line that will be messy can be tucked underneath. So I've got a backup plan if this doesn't work, but I do like it with it completely up. So been rescued by that. Loving it. Pearl Soho, highly Pearl Soho, sorry, I'm thinking about my half and half wrap. Petite knits, her pattern, beautiful, so easy to read. I wouldn't advise maybe a new knitter because she certainly doesn't hold your hand. It's a lot of it is left to you to fill in the gaps, which is fine. But beautifully written. It's stuck, especially when I had never done this before. So you start, I knit a rectangle, and then I did the back shaping to the back part of the sleeves, and then I put that on a hold on those stitch holders, and then I picked up here, and I think, please correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's called a contiguous shoulder. So I picked up there, and I'm so proud of it because you can't even tell where I've picked up, which is right there because I can tell by the bump at the back. But if you can see that, the knitting, you'd never know. So I think that's called a contiguous neckline. Forgive me if it's not. I was going to Google it and have a look, but I never did. And then so you pick up, so you knit the triangle, you knit the back across your shoulder blades, and then you pick up here, and then you knit down the front, and then you join it together, knit down there until the bottom of the armholes, and then you join it together and knit the bottom of the round. I'd never done that, and I kept reading it going, this is weird, what the heck am I doing? But I trusted the pattern, and you've got to do that. You've got to trust the designer. She's a well-known designer, and yeah, lovely, really easy. Thoroughly enjoying knitting her patterns. In fact, so much so, I'm going to cast another petite knit on, and I'll show you that later. Her patterns are, I believe they are classic and feminine and stylish. They've got a little bit of je ne sais quoi to them. Yeah, so I'm thoroughly enjoying it. So highly recommend petite knits, terrazzo, 8-ply, and alpaca. Hopefully I'll be wearing it at the next podcast, because I think I haven't got much else to do today. It is Sunday the 9th of October today, and I haven't got a lot more to do, so I can sit and knit this afternoon, even though it is a nice day, but my eyes are done in with light. So that's my main whip that I've been working on. My other one that I have been working on, just little bits and pieces here and there, is this cardigan that I'm knitting. Now, this is the cardigan that I haven't got a pattern for, I'm just making it up as I go. Made some mistakes, but hey ho, it's just going to be a basic plain drop sleeve cardigan. And so last time we spoke, I was there at that little marker there, which is what is it? It's a cute little sheep, if you can see that. That marker there was where I was at. That marker there is, I have tried it on to work out how much shaping and what I tend to do, how much longer I need to go. And I know I've got 3 inches from that marker to do. So 3 inches. So I have done, a bit, and it is the 2 fronts and the back. So it's 260 stitches. It's considerable knitting. So I've done a bit and piece, but it's nice, thoughtless knitting. Nice. It's my sweet spot, 8-ply, 4mm needles, no pattern, just making it up as I go. Hoping that experience will help, but it's all I want is just a nice cardigan to be able to throw on at home or with jeans, or just in a relaxed way that will be fun. And that is a Skeins vintage, I'll link all this below, of course. Skeins Vintage 8-ply called Chili. It's a beautiful colour. It'll be nice with jeans, I should say, and a t-shirt. So I've been ticking along with that. So that's another whip. Excuse me, I'm going to have another drink because talking is making my mouth dry. That's a nice green tea. So, right. Socks. How am I going with these? So I have, you call them a half HO, don't you? Yeah, HO, half finished object. One sock. Really happy with it. Loving the stripe, self-striping. So this is a crochet self-striping merino nylon, or yeah, merino nylon, I think. It's a store-bought one. It's not an indie dyer. I bought it in Cardigan at a shop, Arts and Crafts shop in Cardigan, and it's lovely and soft. So that's my half finished sock. I took another podcaster's advice so that I don't get sock island, and I cast on number 2 the minute I finished this. But I cocked that up, and oh, that's Kenzie barking. I think my partner's home. I think that's why she's barking. I cocked that up, and when I started knitting it, for some reason, and I've never had that before, I'm not quite sure what I did wrong. I went to knit the second row and it all came adrift. So I got shitty. So the second sock is not actually up. What I will do is promise myself to cast on the second sock before I get into doing some more on this, and then it's done. Because I do see how you get onto Sock Island. So I've really enjoyed knitting this. I love doing the stripes. It is quite addicting. I can do a stripe per trip in the car, driving to work and driving home. So that's worked out quite well. In fact, I think at one stage I count them out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 stripes. So that's a week to do that half and a week to do that half, which is about right. Can't say I still don't enjoy doing the heel flap and gusset, but I might try something different the next one. In fact, the next one, what I'm going to make is Andrea Mowry's Sunday socks, I think they're called. I'll show you another time. That's my next plan. And I have somewhere here, oh no, I fixed it, that's right, I dropped a stitch, so I noticed it much later, so I put a marker on it and I picked it up and sewn it into the back because it was way too late. It's a little bit big. I quite like it because it's snug, but next time I knit them, so this is 72 stitches on a 9-inch circular. It's a crazy sock ladies pattern, 9-inch circular vanilla sock pattern, which is great. No problem with the pattern at all. I quite recommend it. But 72 stitches is just a little bit big for my foot. You think 4 pairs in, you think I'd wear that out. But I've just got this thing in my head, 72 stitches. So I need to cut it down. I need to drop it down to probably 64 or so. I'll have to look at the pattern what the next one down is. Yeah, but probably about 64. So I will drop the stitch count down. I could drop this because I use a 3.75, which is quite high for socks, but with my site I don't know if I could go down to a 3.25. It actually would be better for me to drop down the stitch count rather than the needle size, I think, so that I can keep being able to see it. That's about all I have to say about it. Really enjoyed it. I brought a sock measurer, which I was going to bring and show you again, but I have when I went to the knitting retreat, Keen Knitting Retreat, from Rae, who is I have got it linked below. I think she's walnut something. Beautifully made. And what I've done is drawn where the bottom joint of my first toe, my big toe, and my top toe, the top of that toe on it, and I just slipped it in to the heel, and then I knew exactly when to stop, and it was bang on. So really happy with that. Yeah. So ticking along with socks, I really do enjoy the compactness of them and having it. I just keep it in this little, it's actually a lingerie bag, you know, for washing your delicates in, but I just keep my delicates, my socks in. So I just keep it in this, which is nice and little, so it sits in my bag. And I tried doing the toe with DPNs. Only because I couldn't be bothered finding my magic loop in this size, and it was okay. I've done DPNs before, but I can't say they're my favourites. I don't enjoy the heel and the toe. Maybe I'll get better at it. I just like wearing woolen socks. So that's my socks. Those are the only two whips I'm going to show you, because they're the only two that I've really actively been, or three whips that I've actively been working on. Yeah, so purchases is the next thing. What I might do is talk a little bit about mental health. So what I was going to do is have a little section on, so last time we talked about mindfulness and, you know, really taking the time to smell the roses and actually enjoy the moment without thinking too far ahead, etc. So, but today, as a social worker, I often get people coming to me that go, wow, I didn't see that coming. You know, they're in a state, they're not in a great space, you know, either depression or anxiety or burnout has really crept up on them, but they didn't see it coming. And so what I'm going to encourage you to do is really look for your early warning signs. So there's a nerve called the vagus nerve, which runs right down the center of our body, from our brain right down to our pelvis and then right back up. So it's a two-way nerve, back and forth. It's a two-way road. And so our body can impact our brain through this vagus nerve, and our brain can impact our body through this nerve, because as I said, it's two-way. So 9 times out of 10, with the luxury, I guess, of hindsight, you can really look back, and instead of going, wow, I didn't see that coming, you can start saying, well, actually, yeah, I do remember when I had this, and I do remember this. So, you know, usually there's a physical change and a social change. So the physical change, people can look back and recognize things like, I mean, women often have menstrual issues, tummy issues, so diarrhea and bloating, etc., or palpitations, or breathing not well, or so anything that this vagus nerve has nerves going out to, all of our organs can impact our brain. So, and this is our early warning signs. So it's listening to our body and recognizing that it can actually impact us. You're tingling of fingers. I'm a fiddler, so when I know that one of my real early warning signs, when things aren't, you know, I'm building up to not feeling great, is my fingertips actually get quite sore on my thumbs, because I fiddle a lot. My family teased me because I do this, and so did my mum. So it's funny that we both did. So I do a lot. You know, I might sit in the car and I'll be fiddling with my thumbs, but then my thumbs, the tips of my thumbs and fingers get sore because I've been fiddling with them. So that's why I like knitting, because I can keep fiddling without and be constructive. But that's what I'm going to encourage you to do. I'm going to encourage you to really listen to your body, really stop and think, you know, if you're feeling okay at the moment, well, then have a think about a situation that happened, you know, some time ago, where you ended up in a position going, whew, didn't see that coming, and start thinking about actually some early warning signs. Another one is social. So if you start being too social, getting out there and partying too hard, or if you start you know, hiding away and becoming a bit of a hermit, or, you know, you start changing your sort of normal social behaviors, then that's another indicator as well. Because the goal is, the two goals that I always say to clients is find out what your early warning signs are, and also at the same time find out what works for you to help you start to really calm down. And that's when I talked about things like mindfulness, breathing exercises, all of those sorts of things, and we'll talk more about those in further podcasts. But that's, so you really want to find out what your early warning signs are, and you really want to get this toolbox of mental health strategies that work, that you know work for you, because everybody's different. But you've got to get in early. It's a bit like a big rock with a stick underneath it. Your mental health toolbox is hanging from this stick, but if somebody kicks it away, there's no way that rock, it's just going to go down. But you can strengthen that stick with your mental health toolbox. I hope that makes sense. Yeah, it's those are the two things that I find the most critical when working with clients and myself, from personal experience, and also through my academic work and professional work, and years of professional in that field, 35 years. Doesn't make me perfect, I have to say, and there are times when I am not great. It's to say I'm a human as well, just because I teach it, and I really do try and walk the talk as much as possible, but I'm still human. So yeah, I try and be kind on myself for that. And that's what I was saying this morning about, I was feeling a bit low this morning and a bit flat. So I immediately got up, got my knitting. My old man was snuggled up to me. It was nice. So mental health, I'm checking my notes because poor memory, one of my symptoms. So I've done my socks, done my terrazzo. Oh, I know what I was going to say. When I was trying to knit all awkwardly in bed this morning, what it reminded me of is my mum got polio when she was 3. She had a dead arm all of her life, so it was from the shoulder down, it was just floppy. In fact, when she died, we said, you know, lower slang and floppy. So her arm, pardon me, her arm almost had a life of its own. And she would whack people with it, and it just hung. It was completely dead. But you know, I think that my mum having a disability and also having this stubborn tenacity has been a great thing for me to see now that I've got some challenges, because my mum also went blind as well. She had the same eye disease as me, but obviously the polio she had all of her life. And when I was trying to knit like that, I thought, this reminds me of my mum. Now, my dad actually showed me how to knit, but my mum taught me the nuances of it. She used to knit, and she was a crafter of all sorts, and so am I. I can lay my hand on pretty much any craft and have over my years, and same was mum. She used to knit, she'd hold her knitting needle under her arm like that. She had, I mean, you could never have used circulars. She had long needles, and she used to knit like this with one arm, and really fast. And when I was doing that, it reminded me, and it just was like, isn't it funny how funny, maybe not the right word, but isn't it interesting how we find ways of doing things when we're got some challenges? And the reality is we're all pushing a wheelbarrow. Some of ours are just heavier than others at times. So we can find ways, talk it through, work it out. Anyway, we're going on another tangent now, but it was just one of those fond memories of mum sitting there with one knitting needle, clickety click by the fire. You know, that was my growing up. It was her always knitting and showing me how to knit, and yeah, it was lovely. So acquisitions. I still haven't had my hair cut, guys. Oh God, I don't know. I'm heading off to Aussie for a holiday in about a month or so's time, and I know I'll get it cut then, but hasn't really. This bad weather just makes you stay home. I just haven't gone out. So acquisitions, let me get them. Oh, let me get them. I'm here. Acquisitions, actually I've spent $100, but I was really lucky. I didn't have to pay $100 because I got a lovely voucher from my partner for Christmas. It's October, I haven't spent it. I'd spent $20 of it. I bought a piece of equipment for my sewing machine that was broken that I replaced. But I haven't spent the rest of it. And so, with the lousy weather, I thought, right, I'll go and spend my voucher. And I went into Evans and Masterton, and with my voucher, I thought, what am I going to do? And I kind of knew what I wanted to knit because I've been really enjoying this petite knits, and this is what I was saying before, petite knits slipover. And so I was watching a podcast the other day, The Grocery Girls, which is a podcast I really love. I think 90% of us love the Grocery Girls. That banter between the two sisters is wonderful. And my sister and I like that too, but she don't come on here because knitting ain't her thing. She doesn't like knitting at all. In fact, when she was young, her hem fell down on her school uniform. She sellotaped it up and then put a staple in. So that's the extent of her crafting. But she's got other wonderful skills as well, so that's okay. So I saw the Grocery Girls and is it Tracy? I think is the darker one. Had made this, the Petite Knits. What's it called? Petite Knits Weekender Slipover V-neck. And I just thought, yep, that's another good spring knit that I can knit in the spring. Wear it with a t-shirt or with a. I've kind of imagined it with. I've got a lovely white broderie anglaise shirt with puff sleeve, so I thought that might look quite nice. So that's what I'm going to knit, is the Petite Knits Weekender. And I brought this scrummy caramel. This is my sort of colours. Not only do I love pink and red and purple, those are my three favourite single colours, but all of these caramels and golds, and that is just. This is a real young, you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of Werther's Original Lollies. Food. Anyway, it is Highland 12 ply. So it's Highland, 100% pure New Zealand wool. It's very soft. So it's beautiful and soft. I can't read that, so I'm sorry. So I can't read whether it's a superwash or not, but I would just wash it by hand anyway. So I bought, somebody's texted me, I'll get rid of that. I brought 5 skeins of this with my voucher, and I think this was $12.95 a skein, so it's reasonably expensive. Don't even know how much is how the weight or anything. I'm assuming it's a 50 gram as normal. 12 ply, 50 gram, beautiful and soft, yummy caramel, Werther's Original. So that's going to be my weekender V-neck. That's my next cast on. I will go back to my others, but with spring. But while I was there, I said to the lady, look, I really want to go with my 2 vests that I'm knitting for spring. I had a bit of money left on my voucher. I thought, well, I might as well use it. And I want, what I like and what is fashionable at the moment, I believe, is gingham, black and white gingham. And I thought they would look really nice with a black and white gingham shirt underneath them. So I thought I'd make one. My sewing, I used to work in a banana and used to do dressmaking and make ball gowns and clothe my family. I was everything, right down to undies and sports gear and everything. I've got a little bit, not lazier now, but just I keep it really simple now because of my sight things, I suppose. I can still do the other stuff, but why? And I suppose fashions have changed, in the day of the old bound buttonholes and, all of those sort of things that Petersham and all that stuff is different now. So I had a friend of mine was at work the other day, and she had this beautiful shirt on, and it was very simple. It was just a nice round neck, similar shape to this, or round, not square. This is actually square, but sort of an oval neck, the same size as this. And it came down into a gathered about there, nice gathered with a bit of elastic, and it had a bow underneath, which was really pretty, really unusual. A dolman sort of sleeve. Nice and simple, no shaping, nothing, just clean, crisp, and nice. And I thought, that's me. So I looked at the black and white gingham and I held it against the cream and I didn't like it. So I thought, no, I still like the idea of a black and white gingham, but might find something in Aussie when I'm over there. So I bought this. Pretty little print. Just a nice 100% cotton, although I think it's, yeah, it feels like it's got some rayon or something in it. So it's got a bit of some sort of synthetic something. It's not, maybe it's not 100%. I never asked, actually. The fabric has got expensive. My God, $40 a metre. Oh, that was the other reason why I didn't buy the gingham. $40 a metre. No, not by the time we've sewn it, and that you might as well go and buy one. Anyway, I did like this, and I thought, quite like that as a over vest. And also quite like that. Yep, with a nice pair of black trousers on. So that has been cut out. Oh, that's what I was telling you, Debbie, who had the top on. I said, can I borrow that top? So I borrowed it and I cut a pattern with some newspaper. Yeah, so I cut a pattern with some newspaper and I have cut this out. I actually can't be bothered sewing today, isn't that awful? That can be next week's mission, but it's cut out, ready to go. And it's literally, it's two seams, two side seams, hemming the neck and the bottom and putting some elastic in the sleeves. So nice and simple, but that'll be a nice, fresh, crisp summer shirt for work. And then I looked through, so I was looking through my knitting. I've got this great big huge Alibaba basket that is full of material from all my sewing. And I found this that I brought forgotten about, that I brought in an op shop years ago. And it's cute little, it's got little hearts. Oh, hold it up, right, it's got little hearts on it. It's just a little knit. Yeah, it's just a plain, cute little knit. And look, goes with that really well. And goes with that really well. So I'm going to cut the same shirt out. I'll make that one first, see how it goes. Seems I cut it out with newspaper, but I've been doing that for years, cutting patterns out, finding something that I like and cutting a pattern out. And, I've got so many newspaper patterns that have got Debbie's shirt and you know, Nicola's skirt sort of thing on it. It's remembering what Nicola's skirt looked like that you liked in 15 years ago. Oh, there's that mohair again. Alpaca. It's a bit fluffy, isn't it? Anyway, so that's going to be another shirt. So those were my acquisitions. Not that I had to pay for them. It was thank you, Stuart, for my lovely voucher. I have finally spent it. I've got a packet of vouchers. All this stuff. I should have a lovely day. I've got a $25 voucher from a place called Rival Wealth in town that I had a financial assessment and got sent a voucher for doing that as a thank you for a coffee shop, so I can go to a coffee shop and have lunch. I got from my sister-in-law a voucher for a restaurant in town for my birthday, so I can go to that for a dinner. I can wear my clothes and knitted garments from Stuart's voucher. I have a hairdressing voucher that I also got for my birthday, so I can go and get my hair done. And I have a $25 voucher for when I brought my car. Was it $50? Well, no, it's $25. When I brought my car, my new car, which a business car, it's a hybrid, and I paid for it and brought it back in February. Get it right, Donna. April. I bought it in April and it never arrived until September. So Toyota kindly sent me a $25 voucher for my patience. They obviously didn't see me grumping and groaning about them not very patiently. But anyway, that's nice. So I can have a lot of fun. That's a day. It's a day's lot of treats for nothing. And I don't know why I haven't used it. Well, I do. It's been winter and the weather's been crap. So yeah, so that has been my purchases. So that's my whips, my purchases. No FOs, but something I haven't worn for a while, and the weather hasn't really done that. Let me check my list. Oh, and this is a mental health thing, but it's also if you live in the Wairarapa or my business, Motuoru Development Services, is having one of the concerns that I've got a team of 8 of us, and we're all social workers and mentors and coaches. We go out and work with vulnerable families. One of our main things that we've recognised is that people aren't getting out and about and doing normal life stuff yet. They really have been, we've had two and a half years or so of COVID and lockdowns and fear. So people are stuck at home, whether it be fear or mental health or anxieties, or have just lost their mojo and, aren't getting out there and doing anymore. Just want to get their toe in the door in a safe way. So we've really recognised that this has been the case. Especially last year, we ran a lot of life workshops and a lot of parenting programs, and the numbers were incredibly low. And that's the first time in years for us. Sometimes we get numbers that are high but don't stay on for certain reasons. But this was, and so it was a real indicator. I thought, right, and this is the luxury of owning your own business. Let's have a term of absolute fun. Let's try and get people out and try and stimulate some serotonin and dopamine, the happy hormones in our body, in our brains, our neurotransmitters in our brains with people, and try and get them out and about and in a safe way so that they know that they're in a safe environment, that there's not too many people, but also if they are struggling with anxiety, our mentors, our coaches and or our social workers can support them to come in. But so if you are local and you want to come and just enjoy some activities that are fun for the term, you are more than welcome. They're all free, but a donation will always be appreciated. I'll have a little koha container on the table and you can give a donation towards costs, but they are generally free. So I know that the one that will be set every week religiously is going to be Fabric and Fibre Fun, which is my workshop. So you'll be, under my me. So I'm just going to set my sewing machine up. I'm going to have knitting needles and wool available. And if you're an expert knitter and you just want to sit and chat, or if you're someone who wants to learn to knit, you can pop in and I can teach you how to knit or crochet or sew. If you want to bring something to sew, if you've got a sewing machine at home that needs oiling and the tension's fixed, that's my thing. I can do that, and get you back on the track with sewing and fibre. So that's the Tuesdays at 3 at my business, Motuoru Development Services, and it'll all be on Facebook, or if you're local, you can probably text me on 027 436 7544. This podcast is not sponsored by Motuoru Development. I'm just telling you this. Sorry, guys, it sounds like a real promotion. But I am excited about the term, and I really want people to sort of just get out and start dipping their toe back into normal life again. So we are going to also have things like making lip balm. We're going to have stress management workshops. We're going to have journaling workshops. We're going to have cooking and crafts, maybe making something like lemon honey, just fun little sessions all through the term. So keep an eye out, have a look on our Facebook page, and you can message me your mobile number and you can get put on the list where once a week we will send out a text of what's going on that week. We will also put videos and stuff on our Facebook page. Yeah, so keep an eye out for that. Crafts, knitting, just any crafts, if any craft, you know, embroidery, just whatever you want to do. We can have a bit of fun together and just try and get ourselves back out in the community and get our mojo back. I say this regularly, but I think we were on these treadmills of life, you know, treadling along, and then COVID came along and we had to jump off the treadmill and stop, and we were all very shaky on it, you know, when you know that feeling when you step off a treadmill. And then we stepped off the treadmill, and now we're just not sure how to get back on it. And do we need to get back on it at that speed, or, you know, so it's time to plan, have some fun, and do some goal setting. Anyway, that's my blurb. I hope you've enjoyed that. I've really enjoyed chatting to you. Yeah, have a good week or 2 weeks. I'll be back in a couple of weeks' time. But bye for now. My happy place. It's looking good, all ready for summer. So the seeds past the worm garden. My seeds are all planted, ready, and everything is prepped, ready to go on this stunning day, isn't it?